Let's do this. The Cult Hockey Podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal. And I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. It's a very busy day. Lots going on in the world today. Oilers make a signing.
Scary old world out there today. I'm sorry?
Oilers make a big signing.
Tall signing.
Yeah.
Guy's 6'5", 189 pounds. So Tide was telling me on my radio chat about what they signed a big guy, and I was saying, well, tall guy, but what's he made out of, string?
That's German Jason Bonsignor. Although I think Jason Bonsignor was like 6'5", 220. Actually, he was quite a thick guy. But yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. We'll see if we can remember his name by then. He's totally unknown until this very moment.
Yeah, Bruce, German name Josh. I got the first part, and then his last name sounded vaguely Eastern European.
Well, he is Canadian, I think. Like his dad is a Canadian, played hockey there and coached there. So,
okay.
Anyway, Bruce, this is our the Oilers lost 4-3 to the Dallas Stars. This is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. What is your good thing?
Yeah. Well, it was almost like a really good thing, and then it kind of isn't so much anymore, but it's that they survived a couple of very sort of scary-looking situations early in the second period when first Zach Hyman and then Evan Bouchard limped down the tunnel in rapid succession, and there were two men short on the bench. Two, need I say, very important players to the long term. Beyond the two that are missing already, and at a certain point I was thinking, we're cursed. This is just not going to be it for the year for our guys. And the Hyman one, it really didn't look good at all because he got tangled up with Mason Marchment. And Marchment kind of did the scissors on it, and it wasn't deliberate, and Marchment got hurt on this exchange too. This was just a nasty tie up by the boards very early in the second period. And I honestly thought when Hyman went down the tunnel that we weren't going to see him again. Not only did we see him again, but he came back to lead the Oilers in shots with 6 and shot attempts with 10. He scored the goal that made it 4-3. And, he came back to play his, typical pestiferous game. So that was a good thing. And
hold up, Bruce. Is pestiferous a word?
Pestiferous, absolutely. That's what pests do. They're pestiferous.
If it's a word, I love it. Even if it's not a word, if you just made it up, I might even love it more.
Well, maybe my mom made it up. I got it from her. So
pestiferous.
Very possible.
Harboring infection and disease.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Constituting a pest or nuisance, annoying.
Yes, there we go.
A pestiferous nephew of yours.
Mm-hmm.
What a great pestiferous line.
Zach Hyman is pestiferous around the opposing crease. And anyway, he came back and played well. Bush, it didn't look good, but in the end it was, a block shot and probably a stinger, and back he came. So my good thing was that, the game was spiraling out of control in the second period, but at least they weren't losing players. And then, of course, they did lose a player in the third period, another important player. And their goaltender, Stu Skinner, who took a nasty dart from big Mikko Rantanen, who I think clipped him with his hip on the side of the head. And
I think he did get his knee.
And I thought it was hip anyway. It was because Skinner's not that low to the ice there. But anyway, whatever it was, he got a hard knock and his neck got pushed to the side because it came from the side. So that's a neck concern. And Skinner came out of the game without complaining like he did bitterly when he got pulled by the concussion spotter last time. This time he was legit hurt. And Coach Chris Knobloch in the post-game scrum says he does not expect Skinner to travel with the team to Seattle for a 1-game road trip tomorrow. And why should he really? Like, he's not even going to play, right? It's Pickard's game. It's a 1-game trip and then back home to play on Saturday. Only makes sense to me that they leave Stu at home and they call up presumably Rodrigue, who played tonight for Bakersfield. They lost 3-2 in overtime. And he'll sit on the bench and Pickard will get the game. But I think that's the sensible thing to do. Whether, if Skinner's hurt, then obviously he doesn't go. But even if he's just kind of shaken up, what's the point? Like, give him the rest. Let the guy from the minors get the opportunity to caddy on the bench, because it'll be Pickard going anyway. But my concern is what happens after that and whether he'll be good to go by the weekend.
Rodrigue is not exactly tearing up the pea patch this year, although neither goalie is. I think there's a considerable difference between this year's Bakersfield team's defensively. Like, the defense last year was really good.
Yeah,
it was stacked with veteran hockey players. This year it's not that, and it's stacked with more marginal hockey players. Last year he was like .915 save percentage, and this year he's at .899, and Colin Delia is at .896.
Well, he was high, but Olivia Ray runs, and then the save percentage collapsed around the time that defensemen started falling out of the lineup, and I'm sure there's no coincidence there.
Yeah, let's see.
Meanwhile, where's Travis?
There's a lot of no.
Where's Josh Brown? Where is Josh Brown? He's not in Bakersfield.
He's not.
They're paying the guy $1 million. Where is he and what's he doing? I haven't heard a thing.
I didn't know that he wasn't. I didn't know that he wasn't.
He's not playing any games, so
must be injured. You have to think, Bruce. I mean, he wants to play too, right? Yeah. They look like they have a real sketchy defense down there, honestly.
Tonight they had Deneen, Connor Corcoran, Darren Brady, whoever he is, that's a new one to me, Alex Cannock-Liepert, Kyle Mayhew, and Ronnie Attard. That was their defense tonight. I mean, Deneen is on an NHL contract, and I think Attard is, and the others are minor league contracts all the way, and they're emergency call-ups and stuff. So it's not a good scenario down there.
Darren Brady is a long-time ECHL.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to say East Coast Hockey League anymore. No. It's ECHL.
Well, I went to one ECHL game in my life, and it was in Victoria. And I was laughing with my friend Pierre, who took me to that game, saying, how do they call this the East Coast League? And he said, well, we are on the east coast of Vancouver Island.
I once called it the...
but they just acronymized the entire league and took the East Coast part and just left the acronym as fill in the blanks, I guess.
I once called it the East Coast Hockey League in a post, and they emailed me, the league, and said, stop, don't do that. It's not called the ECHL. They're quite
they changed it. Yeah, they came out and announced it a few years ago now.
I just feel like I'm going to call it the East Coast Hockey League just for that.
Well, that's for roots. Yeah, that's where it got the acronym.
Officious league officials.
It's the opposite of an acronym.
Yeah, my good thing, Bruce, is the Oilers comeback. And honestly, I never had a lot of belief for the Oilers were going to come back. They're down 4-0. I just didn't think, even when they got like within 2 there, what's left. It was nonetheless impressive, Bruce. And they had an impressive start to the game too. Overall, the Oilers had 19 grade A shots to 11 for the Stars. And subset of 5 alarm shots was 8-6 by the Oilers. So that there were some really good moments, both at the start of the game when no score effects there. That was just the Oilers coming out playing really good hockey right off the top, and with some great chances. Hyman, he gets a breakaway. Nugent Hopkins gets, great pass from Bouchard, great pass from Jeff Skinner to set up Nugent Hopkins on the power play. And then Matthias Janmark jumps up on the shorthanded and almost puts in a goal off the rebound. So great start, but the finish was even better because on their really good chances, they actually scored. And it was, you might call them pestiferous geezers leading the way for the Oilers at the end. Corey Perry knows where the goals are scored. He really does. And he gets the first one, face-off win, blistering shot on a double screen that misses the net, blistering shot by Wallman, and comes right back to Perry, who's right in front of the net and slams it in before anyone else can react. The next one, Perry's involved again. This time, power play goal. He's at the side of the net. They've been working it around and putting pressure on, and he puts it out to Adam Henrique, and Henrique just makes a great shot, which he's capable of doing. He does get off those shots, and at the same time, Connor Brown's going hard to the net. So just another really good goal. And they top it all off right at the end with Nugent Hopkins winning a battle in the corner. There's a huge scrum in the corner, and at 25 left, and puts it back to Bouchard. Slams a shot at net, and Hyman kicks in the rebound, or jams in the rebound more accurately. So those are great goals to see this team manufacture. And what I'm not expecting them to win every game in this streak, but what I do want to see is solid defense, which we really didn't see. Even though there was just 11 grade A shots, there was some doozies. And we didn't, on the goals against, I think Stuart Skinner was weak on one of the four, but on the other ones, there was just no hope. And that was on the just defensive lapses, mental lapses. And but I want to see strong defense. We didn't see that, but I also want to see them be able to score some goals. Like, can they muster some goals, these guys, when the big guys aren't there? And yes, they can. They've done it now 2 games running, and that's really encouraging. This game was discouraging for a while, but the end part of it did encourage me.
Yeah. Well, they mustered a tying goal in the third period against Winnipeg after McDavid went out. That game, remember, they fell behind and Hyman tied it up, and they got a point out of it. And then they got 5, of course, against Seattle on Saturday, and they played poor defense but hung on to win. And then tonight they didn't score for most of the game, but then they got the 3 and at least made a game out of it. Oddly, all of the goals were scored after the goalie change. Like Skinner's part of the game, Oilers lost 4-0. Pickard's part, they won 3-0 in just 10 minutes or so, right? 12 minutes, I think he played. So strange how that was. And you don't know if it was the change in goalie or maybe the fact that Skinner got run the way he did angered the Oilers, and they picked it up and started to take it to him. So I do know the 2 Oilers goalies got hit 3 times in the third period, and by the third time, Jake Wallman had enough. Yeah. That's good. I mean, what do you do at that point, right? Like Knobloch said, the only thing you can do is take a major penalty, and that's not going to help. And some might say, well, maybe you should be doing a few drive-bys of the blue paint at the other end of the ice. Turnabout is fair play, but we didn't really see much of that other than when they were hanging around the crease, banging the puck in the net, which is the best way to get back at them.
Someone might have taken a run at Rantanen.
Comeback.
Take a run at Rantanen, that would have been okay. I don't think actually Rantanen
I didn't think it was deliberate.
I did. Skinner was outside his crease, well outside, and I think he was falling forward. That's why there was, as much as anything, that's why there was the contact.
Well, Steele nailed
I do
both
think it was
goalies.
neat ahead. Pardon me, Bruce?
Sam Steele nailed both goalies. He was the first one to hit Skinner, and then he was the one who hit Pickard when it was already, they were down to their second goalie, and he was going in hard on the penalty kill. And I like Sam Steele, but I'm going, enough already. You're down. What do you want to wait around for an hour and a half while they phone the emergency goalie and have him take a Uber to the rink and dress and play the last 8 minutes because he knocked out both of the goalies? Like, pull up. A little bit, be aware. It was still 4-1 at that point. Anyway, thankfully Pickard was fine, or we really would have had a mess on our hands.
Yeah. Hockey happens fast, and I think
It
that's
does.
what happened.
It does.
Sometimes there's collisions.
A good local boy. I got nothing against him other than that was a play where I thought he didn't display a lot of awareness of the situation where the opponent was already down to their second goalie. Maybe don't run him over.
I didn't like what Steele. I actually thought Steele's play was more deliberate than Rantanen's. Like I think that he was more careless than Rantanen. I think Rantanen was just enthusiastic. He was going for the puck, and he saw it. And that's what was suddenly he sees the puck behind the net. That's always thinking, I'm going to get there first, and he hit somebody. Steele was actually kind of going for the goalie, and yeah, I didn't like that very much at all. All right, Bruce. Bad things. I'll go first because my bad thing happens first, and I didn't actually notice this originally. You and I, of course, during the game, we're talking back and forth, and we have a scoring chance, grade A shots document, and we're discussing who's to blame, who isn't to blame, and whether it's a grade A shot or not. Through each game, and we have sometimes fairly lively debates, but we're just trying to get at the truth. Anyway, on this one, you noticed this, and I didn't notice it, but when I did notice it, man, oh goodness gracious, Bruce, this is the first goal against, and the Oilers have been first 3 grade A shots of the game are the Oilers, and there's 5, and they've been dominating the play, and Dallas finally gets their first grade A shot, but the way they get it, they conjure it out of slackness and more slack. Mental slackness creates this. First, there's a fairly marginal pinch by Ekholm, a poor decision to go in there and pinch. It's not a 50-50 chance. It's not close to that. It's like a 20-80 chance that he's going to win that play.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. So now forwards have to cover for him. And as Jason Strudwick famously says, you can never trust a forward. So Bouchard's back with both Perry and Derek Ryan. Perry in the middle of the ice and Bouchard and Ryan on the flanks. So you'd think you'd have it covered because I think it's at that time
basically 2-on-3, wasn't it?
2-on-3 essentially. But what happens next is Derek Ryan decides to shift off right in the middle of the Dallas rush. And Corey Perry doesn't know that he shifts off or isn't aware that he's now the second defenseman. Yeah. He might have clued in too, like that he's actually responsible to help out. Bouchard gets beat along the boards at the Oilers blue line on a play that's skipped into the Oilers zone. And that's a lost battle. But it should not lead to a goal because Ryan definitely, if he had stayed in the play, would have been covering the goal. Who was the goal scorer?
Tyler Johnston.
Tyler Johnson. He would have stayed with Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, he was with him. And
nothing would have happened. Or Corey Perry might have realized, I'm the guy. Neither of them did, and because of that, it's a breakaway chance by Johnson, Wyatt Johnson, who's an outstanding goal scorer.
Top corner from 12 feet out or whatever. And wouldn't you know, the timeline was everybody ripping on Skinner, and I'm, geez, you're blaming the goalie on that?
Are you serious? Like that's
well,
nuts.
He's supposed to stop them all, David. It's as simple as that. Every time he lets one in, it's a cause for rage.
If some people,
regardless of the circumstances, I mean,
some people lose. Bruce, they lose credibility. You know, honestly, when people repeatedly do that, when they pick on a player, repeatedly single that player out with laser focus, to me, they lose their credibility. And maybe they can gain it back by years of same commentary after that, but it's something to be careful. Like anyone who's deeply involved in a team and emotionally connected has to be on the lookout for that kind of thing. I've probably been guilty of it myself, but people are guilty of it with Skinner. On this play, though, Bruce, Derek Ryan is a veteran hockey player. He's trying to play his way back into the NHL.
Yeah.
He is known as a smart hockey player. He is a smart hockey player.
Yes.
And again, as I say, hockey happens fast. And he obviously thought in the split second, oh, Corey Perry's back. Evan Bouchard's back. This is a 2-on-2. It's safe to change. But he really he misread it. This happens. Yeah. And he made a bad decision for a veteran. Given his position on the team, his tenuous position on the team, can't happen. Yeah. That can't happen. And it's going to make it tough for him, plays like that. I mean, his play has been, frankly, his two-way play has been deteriorating for 3 years running. And
he's near the end of the
I don't know why Philp isn't on the team instead of him. Philp's played better than him when he's been up, I believe. And I think if it was on merit, Philp would be here right now. Personally, I know that everyone loves him in the dressing room, and I put weight in that. Like, I'm not saying should never think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, he's not here to make plays like that. That's for sure. He's here to set the example, and that wasn't the example you want to see, because that was when the other team's burrowing through the neutral zone with the puck. Even if you're near the bench, it's maybe not the time to be changing out. And this is one, if you look at it, if you go to NHL.com and you find on the main game center page the goals, you can click on the little arrows to watch the replay. But right under is a thing they call the goal visualizer, which is this great new feature they have this year, where they follow the position of all the players on the ice and the puck, because they all got chips in them. And Ryan is right there, and all of a sudden he's standing by the bench making the change, and the poor bugger that comes on and gets the -1 has no chance to catch Tyler Johnson.
Oh, that'd be funny to see. It's too bad that we are not technologically able. Otherwise, like right now, if we knew what we were doing, we would.
Yeah, you got that thing up on the screen. I mean, it
would be showing people, but we are.
An animation says 1,000 words. I think that's how the old saying goes. Anyway, this one sure does. And it just says bad 998 times line change. Anyway, yeah, that was a bad thing. My bad thing is common to all 4 goals against, same player involved in all 4 goals against. Matthias Ekholm, one of my favorites, one of the favorites of oil country, and one of the guys who'll make a mistake and folks will look the other way and blame Bouchard and Skinner, right? Because that's what we do around here. 4 times, though. 4 times, David. A bad pinch on that first goal that you mentioned already. On the second one, there was a lob puck that came up towards him, and he knocked it down in the neutral zone away from himself. It's the same thing Nurse did about 2 or 3 games ago that wound up being really costly. And he knocked it down, and then he was unable to recover, and he got beaten by the pass across the face of goal that got deflected and through to Jason Robertson, who got his first of 3, his 30th of the season. Then on the third goal, another bad pinch. This time, this goal actually drove me nuts. There was 3 seconds left in the Edmonton power play and a face-off in the offensive zone. And somehow it seemed like the whole team forgot there was going to be a guy coming out of the penalty box in like 3 seconds. And they won the draw. Nurse came in from the point, and he tried a shot that I don't know what I think he was looking for a deflection, but he missed the net on the short side off the boards, and it bounced out to the right wing. Again, Ekholm comes up to pinch, and he's late, and he has no chance. And it gets chipped by him. And of course, now the guys come out of the penalty box, and it is, in fact, Jason Robertson. And puck goes right to him. And this is a wide open 2-on-1. And he walks in, and he, I'll say, fools Skinner. This is the one out of the 4 I thought Skinner really could have done better with. That just got in under his pad. But the fact that it was a 2-on-1 was because Ekholm had pinched at the far end and didn't get man or puck. It was just beaten. And so that was the third one. And then the fourth one was on a brief 5-on-3 where Oilers actually were 3-on-5 from Edmonton's perspective, and they won the face-off. And first Eck fired kind of a grenade into the skates of Kulak.
Yeah.
Kulak couldn't handle it, and he couldn't. I didn't like his play, but he was under duress and he just couldn't clear it. And then Eck chased the play out to the boards, whacked a guy with a stick, broke his stick. Then he comes back into the middle, and the pass goes through to Jason Robertson. And if Ekholm has a stick, he probably breaks the play up, but he doesn't have a stick because he already just broke it. Robertson tips it in around skin. Now that one, anybody blaming the goaltender on that one needs to see a specialist, because that was a passing play where they just went around Skinner and tipped it into, but it was again a fail. But Ekholm, all 4 goals, we had him down as one of the guilty parties, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, we have, what do we got here? We got Bouchard, Ekholm, Perry, and Ryan, of course, on the first one that you described. Nugent Hopkins, Ekholm, Bouchard, and Arvidsson on the second one. Third one was Ekholm and Nurse. And forwards who didn't back check, we didn't really single anybody out, but I didn't think that was too great from the 3 of them. And then the fourth one, it was Ekholm and Kulak, who was unable to clear the puck. So he was never sort of the only guy at fault, but he was one of them on 4 out of 4 goals. And overall, we had him on for 7 as one of the defensive culprits on 7 grade A chances, including those 4
out of 11.
Out of 11 7 of the 11.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
That you hardly ever see that.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
He had a terrible night.
Yeah, I don't think he's right, David. I don't think he's right physically. And I think he's trying to play something through something, and I don't think he's right. And I'm starting to become very concerned because, as you know, he missed 2 weeks kind of getting over it, and he came back and he had a really good first game. And now, I don't know. Like, for sure, he was far from his best in this particular game. And
yeah, that second goal was kind of weird because it looked to me like they might have had it kind of broken up, but I think Arvidsson slapped the puck over to the goal scorer. He was trying to clear the puck in the slot, and he tipped it right over. And then on the third goal, it was a grade A shot territory, and it was a great shooter. Robertson's a great shooter.
2-on-1. Yeah,
but Skinner, that's the one Skinner
still needs to be stopped.
Yeah, you really needed a save there, and that's when Stu Skinner could have saved himself a lot of grief if he had made that save, because it didn't look good, and it wasn't. He got faked out by the shooter, by an excellent shooter, I think. And I think Louis DeBrusk mentioned that on the broadcast. I think Louis was right. It looked like Robertson was going to go glove high, and then he faked Skinner and just went hard low shot and beat him that way. So that's a shooter outthinking the goalie, outfake, a brilliant shooter faking the goalie out, and that's what happens now and then.
Not quite 5-hole, but between the heel of the stick and just under the corner of his pad, almost where his ankle is. He couldn't quite get his pad down flat quick enough because he wasn't, frankly, expecting that shot, and it was 2-on-1, so he was maybe preparing to push off to. Anyway, he got beat, and it was a painful one.
It really was. Numbers, right? So my number, why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, I'm going to pick a real simple number, which is shots on goal in this game. 45 for Edmonton, 24 for Dallas. Woo. 45-24, including an 18-5 margin in the third period, 14-6 in the first. Edmonton was, the better play on territorial play in both those periods by a good margin. And overall, the shots would say they were the better team on the night. And I agree that they were the better team mostly, but they made the bigger mistakes. And when it comes down to it, as my wife reminds me frequently, and she's always right, hockey is a game of mistakes.
Oh, is it ever? Yes, it is.
Yep.
You're looking at a guy who deflected in a shot.
What can you say to that? But yes, dear.
Yeah. You're looking at a guy who deflected in a shot in his own net in beer league hockey this morning. So I know all about it. Yeah.
Ouch.
All right, Bruce. It happens. It happens. You're going to block the pass across. It hits you in the shin pad. It goes in the net. All right. It was the old Darnell Nurse play. Bruce, my number is 2051. Cody Ceci's time on ice tonight. 17-26 at even strength, which is that the high? Wow. It's the second highest total for any Dallas defenseman. So he looks like he's on the top pairing list. Lindell, is that correct?
That's for Lindell. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they've been crushing it.
Good for Cody Ceci. He was an underrated Oiler. He had lots of critics, sometimes us, but generally not. I think we appreciated his game quite a bit. He's playing really well on a good team. So he can be in the right situation. He can be a good player for you, and help you win in the playoffs, as he did for the Edmonton Oilers for 3 years. That was a really good signing in the end by the Oilers, and they got out of it without too much pain at all. And I think it was time to move on from Ceci, but good to see him land on his feet in Dallas.
Well, he went to San Jose, of course, in the trade for Emerson. Which saved the Oilers $2.3 million in cap hit, which was very important and remains important. It was the reason for the trade. But the many folks claiming that the Oilers got the better defenseman in the deal, I would suggest recent evidence points strongly that maybe not. That Emerson was, I think, -6 in his last 7 games and struggling mightily, and he's been in the press box now for 4 games. And meanwhile, Cody Ceci's just out there playing 20 minutes a night, night after night. This is just a normal game for him. His 3 years in Edmonton, he averaged 20-54, 20-08, 20-01. This year he's averaging 21-33, including over 20 minutes in both San Jose and Dallas. And since he's been in Dallas, he's played 20 games now with 7 points, no goals. Pretty classic Ceci, but 7 assists, plus 13. He was a plus player 7 games in a row before tonight, where tonight he was even. And he and Lindell are just crushing it as a partnership in terms of outscoring. It's not like either of them scores 1 million points, but they don't give up a hell of a lot. And that was an interesting trade by Dallas. They lost Sagan, so they had lots of cap space, and they traded to San Jose. Couple draft picks, and they got Michael Granlund and Cody Ceci all at once, and it was like a $5 million forward and a $3 million defenseman. They're both kind of, okay for their contract, but not, no. And of course, San Jose couldn't retain, so Dallas took on the whole cap hit. But those guys have been covering the bet in Dallas.
At least they're playing. At least they're not injured, like Trent Frederick and John Klingberg. Bruce, Ceci, he it's interesting that he's playing with another defenseman. He did really well in the playoffs. Like, you remember, like, he and Nurse were doing so poorly, and a lot of people were blaming Ceci at the time. But as soon as Ceci switched over to play with Kulak in the playoffs, suddenly they were really good and holding their own, just like he's doing with Vessel Lindell. So, Darnell Nurse was the one who was really struggling at that time.
Last year,
last season in the playoffs. Was he ever
Michael Granlund, he had before tonight, and I don't suppose he had any points tonight because the one line was doing all the scoring. So he's played 20 games now in Dallas, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points, plus 8. And he's averaging 17 minutes a night. They just got 2 old reliable pros basically out of San Jose in that trade. And San Jose continued to collect draft picks like they're going out of style. And remember, they were the middleman in Wallman. They got a second rounder when they got Wallman. They got a first rounder when they traded him to Edmonton. And for Ceci, he came with the third rounder from Edmonton, and then they traded him for, well, him and Granlund, and I think they got a first rounder back. So in both, two different guys where they got a draft pick when they got him, and they got another draft pick when they got rid of him. They got a lot of draft picks out there now. McCurdy has done some pretty sharp business as GM in San Jose.
Speaking of draft picks, Bruce, I was noticing with the Dallas Stars, have they ever done well in the draft? So yeah, I just want to go over the last 8 years in the draft since 2017.
This is going to hurt.
The players that they've picked up. So 2017 draft, they had the third overall pick, and they take Miro Heiskanen, which is like, well, you think, oh, it's a high pick. Well, the third pick, well, not probably about 30% of the time doesn't work out, but it really worked out. Like, they have one of the best defensemen in the NHL. But then later in the first round, 26th, they take Ottinger. And then in the second round, 39th overall, Bruce, they take Jason Robertson.
Trifecta. What a great draft.
That's how you win. That's how you become a championship team. 2019, 18th overall, they take Thomas Hardy. 2020, 30th overall, they take Maverick Bourque, who still may or may not turn out, but there's some arrows up on him. Yeah. 2021 amateur draft, they take 23rd overall Wyatt Johnson, who's one of the best young forwards in the NHL. And 47th overall, they take Logan Stankoven, who they just turned into Mikko Rantanen. In the 2022 draft, 18th overall, they take this giant guy, Leon Bichelle, who looks like he could be quite a defensive force one day in the NHL, maybe an Alexiak type of player. So, man, was ever drafting in those, whatever that is, 5 or 6 drafts for Dallas, that kind of draft gold is it makes or break, can make or break a franchise. And in the end, the Oilers under Holland, Holloway and Broberg are turning out as you and I oft said they would, thought they would, hoped they would, never gave up on them, but not for the Oilers. So
yeah, all the Edmontons got from that same period of years, you can go back to 2016, and all they got that they drafted and developed that are on the team are Stu Skinner and Evan Bouchard. And those are the two of the players that are most in the crosshairs of some of the fans, because I don't know, young mid-20s players here, there's a rough patch they seem to often hit. Well, they got those two, but last year in the summer they lost 3 guys that were positive draft picks for Edmonton that draft and develop. They drafted and developed Ryan McLeod. He's gone. He's got 43 points with Buffalo now. And of course, Broberg and Holloway went and the double fell swoop with St. Louis offer sheet. And Broberg's got 27 points. He had 4-point night last night. And Dylan Holloway's got 60 points. 60 points. 24 goals. He's got the same number of goals as Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner combined, who were the 2 guys Oilers signed on July 1st when they wanted to get a top 6 wingers for Leon. And the guy that they already had who played there in the finals, Dylan Holloway, they didn't have space for him. And after the signings, they didn't have money for him either, and away he went. So that was in retrospect, that's just looking like a horrific mistake by Edmonton management to not know what they had in their young players.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have known,
What a screw up. What a colossal screw up. It's just, it could shape the future of the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah. Like, it could be that significant. First, the day it happened, like, we realized that this, like I said, felt like the Adam Graves thing in the 90s, which was such a horrendous thing to happen to the Oilers when they lost Adam Graves as a young player to the New York Rangers on a similar kind of signing. Bruce, the Oilers did sign a prospect, this Josh Samansky, 6'5", 190. I saw one side say that he was 6'6". He is the fourth leading German scorer. He's the 20th something leading scorer in the German Elite League, but for German players, he's the fourth. And one of the publications, Bild magazine, who broke the story of the Oilers signing this 23-year-old player, referred to him as Straubing. That's the team he plays for. Straubing's best player and perhaps the greatest German talent at the forward position. I think they met in the German Elite League,
the DL,
including the NHL. But you know what? There's rave reviews of this guy. He seems to be a really high skill player. And the interesting thing about him is he was not a very good junior player. He scored like 4 goals in his 1 year in the OHL as a center in a significant number of games. Yeah, he just couldn't get it going. He worked his way up from the second division in the German league to the first division, and until this year, he never really scored much, but he suddenly came alive. And what excites me about that is that we have seen this before, where these tall, kind of gangly guys suddenly get it together. They get their man's strength or their man's speed, and they become a force. So obviously, any player you're signing from Europe, pretty much. Not any player, but the vast majority of players that you're signing from Europe are long shots to make it in the NHL. It seems like a huge jump to make it. I'm excluding the guys who come over when they're 19, 20, like the star players.
High draft picks.
These guys who come over like 23 to 30, they have a way of not working out, or just marginally working out, never really figuring it out. But every now and then, one of them does really figure it out and gets the North American game down and plays really well and helps his team. For the Oilers, Bruce, this is an important signing because the Oilers just have terrible prospect death right now.
No, they gotta have some bodies going.
I said prospect death, which might have been a Freudian slip. They need talented players who can step in and help the Oilers in the next few years. And if this guy can losing Holloway and Broberg especially, this really exacerbates that. So this is a really promising signing from the sounds of things. He'll come over, he'll play in Bakersfield for the next year at least, and we'll see how he does. But maybe they have a player here. And Stauffer today was saying on his show that he says the Oilers are going to sign another player from Europe who's even more experienced in a better league on a better team and a more accomplished player. So it's not. And I asked him if that was Maxim Berezhkin, who the Oilers had drafted. He said, no, it's going to be someone else other than that. So I don't know where they are with Berezhkin. He's a really good player.
So he's talking about free agents then.
Yeah, they're going to sign another free agent right away.
Yeah, Berezhkin, what he isn't is a free agent. He's got his team in the Russian league, but the Oilers have his rights, so they're the only team that can sign him. The German guy I've been expecting him to sign is Luca Munzenberger, who's a defenseman they drafted in 2020, was it? It was the year that they traded the Jesper Wallstedt pick to Minnesota, and they traded down. They got Xavier Bourgault, who's gone, and they got the 90th overall pick, which was Munzenberger, and he's finally finished his 4th year of college. And the time to sign him is like right now. In fact, it was last week, when his college career finished, and say, come on and start playing pro games. We desperately need anybody who can play defense in Bakersfield. And the fact that he hasn't signed now has me concerned that he may just decide, I'm not going to sign with Edmonton. I'll wait until August 15th and sign somewhere else. Because it should have happened logically. It should have happened immediately. Maybe he's staying to finish his degree. Like sometimes there's stuff we don't know. But they sure could have used him over that ECHL guy whose name I've already forgotten, that was in the lineup tonight. Like there's places. Yeah. There's places for guys like that to play, and they desperately need to flush out their prospect pool. And some of it's signing their own guys, but some of it also is signing free agents. And I noticed this guy, like he went back to. He played DEL2 league as a 18-year-old, and then he went on to play for Straubing It's 1920.
Well, this is back to the other guy.
Yeah. This is the guy that they actually signed today.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is Szymanski. And he's gone from 7 to 9 to 10 to 16, 14 goals, from 8 to 18 to 27 to 40 points. Now, that's a nice progression, like significantly better every year, always more assists and more goals. So, and the other slightly interesting thing is his dad, John Szymanski, played in the German leagues for years, second or third division mostly, but he did spend a little bit of time in the first division with Cologne and the same team as Peter Draisaitl, Leon's dad. So it's a fair chance that Josh knows Leon. And I'll say this, you talk about advantages and disadvantages when pursuing free agents, like players, they have places they want to go, like American college players don't want to come to Canada and stuff. German players want to come to Edmonton because they all want to play with Leon Draisaitl. It's only in training camp. Oh. So why not recruit there? So you want to come play with Big Leon, got to come to Edmonton to do that.
Well, maybe that will help attract Luka Munzenberger, who's also German.
Well,
yeah, and you're right. We don't know a lot about Luka Munzenberger, but we know that his name is Luka and he lives on the second floor. Remember that song?
Yeah, his name is almost as long as he is. He's a real tall drink of water as well.
Yeah,
Munzenberger.
Not much of a point producer in college.
He started to score a tiny bit this year.
12 points he got this year as opposed to 3 last year. So
anyway, he was scoring late in the year, and I'm just going to quickly look at him up, and I keep not being able to spell. Oh yeah, look, come on, man. Oh,
yeah, we had him ranked, Bruce, in our Cult of Hockey prospects. Luka Munzenberger. We had him 18th this year, which is, let's see, the highest he's ever been is, really 16th. Like we've never really rated him highly as a prospect. Right. He's always been 8 or,
well, he scored 12 points this year after scoring 11 in his first 3 years combined. So at least he was and he got 5 goals. So at least he found that there was a net at the other end. He's 6'2", 201, not as tall as I remember, but he's, a solid customer. And he looked good in the World Junior for them. A couple of the World Juniors that were here in Edmonton, he was on the German team, and now he's 20, 22 and ready for pro. So hopefully they'll get something done.
Bruce, when's the next game? Tomorrow night in Seattle?
Tomorrow night in Seattle, and then they're back here Saturday against Calgary. So it's a quick turnaround that probably favors the Flames. Yeah. But what do you do? It's NHL schedule is what it is. They give you several days off, and then they crush a bunch of games in a short span with a road trip in the middle of it. So they got to find a way to get 2 points tomorrow.
Yeah. Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.